My beloved child, you've been looking for me in all the wrong places. You searched for me in answered prayers, but I was in the unanswered ones too. You looked for me in the good times, but I was especially close in the bad times. I never left, you just forgot how to see me. I know you're here because there have been seasons in your life when it felt like I disappeared, when it seemed like I stopped caring, when you wondered if I had moved on to someone more deserving of my attention. Maybe it was during that devastating loss when you prayed and the heavens seemed silent. Perhaps it was during that long season of struggle when you kept believing for breakthrough but circumstances kept getting worse instead of better. Maybe it was when you needed me most and instead of rescue, you experienced more pain. Instead of deliverance, you faced deeper challenges. Instead of the miracle you were believing for, you got more problems to solve. And in those moments, you started to question whether I really cared about you, whether I was really involved in your life, whether I had perhaps forgotten about you altogether. You felt abandoned by heaven when earth became too heavy to bear. You felt invisible to the one who claims to see everything. You felt unheard by the one who promises to always listen. And in your pain, you started looking for me in all the wrong places, measuring my presence by all the wrong things. But today, I want to correct your vision. I want to show you where I've actually been during every moment you thought I was absent. I want to reveal to you all the ways I've been present when you felt I was gone. I want to open your spiritual eyes to see the invisible companion who has never left your side. I never left you. You just forgot how to see me. My dear child, let me start by helping you understand where you've been looking for me and why you haven't been able to find me there. Because once you understand the difference between where I actually am and where you expect me to be, you'll never feel abandoned again. You've been looking for me in answered prayers, but I've been present in the unanswered ones too. You thought my presence was proven by getting what you asked for, by seeing prayers fulfilled quickly, by watching miracles happen on your timeline. And when prayers seemed to bounce off the ceiling, when heaven appeared silent, when miracles didn't manifest, you assumed I wasn't listening or didn't care. But I was there in every no that protected you from something that would have hurt you. I was present in every delay that was actually perfect timing. I was active in every seeming silence that was actually me working behind the scenes in ways you couldn't see. Sometimes my presence is shown not by giving you what you want, but by protecting you from what would destroy you. Sometimes my love is demonstrated not by saying yes to your requests, but by saying no to your limitations. You've been looking for me in the good times, but I was especially close during the bad times. You expected to feel my presence during celebration, during success, during seasons when everything was working in your favor. And when life got difficult, when circumstances turned challenging, when problems multiplied, you thought it meant I had withdrawn my presence. But the truth is, I'm closer to you during your suffering than during your celebrating. I'm more present in your pain than in your pleasure. I'm more active during your storms than during your sunshine. When you're strong, you often forget you need me. But when you're weak, you remember that I'm your strength. You've been looking for me in big, dramatic interventions, but I've been present in small, daily mercies. You expected me to show up like thunder and lightning, like parting seas and moving mountains. You were watching for the spectacular, the supernatural, the undeniably miraculous. And when life remained ordinary, when help came through natural means, when blessings arrived in simple packages, you missed my presence. But I was there in the friend who called at just the right moment. I was present in the opportunity that opened just when you needed it. I was active in the strength you found to face another day, the wisdom you received to make a difficult decision, the peace that came over you in the middle of chaos. You've been looking for me in feelings, but I've been present regardless of your emotions. You thought my presence should make you feel happy, peaceful, confident, strong. And when you felt sad, anxious, confused, or weak, you assumed it meant I wasn't with you. But my presence isn't dependent on your feelings, and your feelings aren't an accurate gauge of my proximity. I'm just as present when you feel terrible as when you feel wonderful. I'm just as close when you're crying as when you're laughing. I'm just as active when you're confused as when you're confident. The problem isn't that I left you. The problem is that you've been looking for me in the wrong places with the wrong expectations. Now let me show you where I've actually been during every season you thought I was absent. because I want you to see that there hasn't been a single moment when you were truly alone. I've been in your breath. Every morning when you woke up, I was the first thing that entered your lungs. Every night when you went to sleep, I was the last thing that sustained your life. When you were so heartbroken you could barely breathe, I was breathing for you. When anxiety tried to steal your breath, I was the air that kept you alive. You never had to wonder if I was there. You just had to notice that you were still breathing. Every breath was evidence of my presence. Every heartbeat was proof of my care. I've been in your unexpected strength. When you thought you couldn't handle one more disappointment, but you did. When you believed you couldn't survive another loss, but you survived. When you were convinced you couldn't take another step, but you kept walking. That wasn't your strength. That was mine flowing through you. I was the supernatural endurance that carried you through seasons that should have broken you. I was the resilience that helped you bounce back from setbacks that should have destroyed you. I was the hope that refused to die even when everything around you was dying. I've been in your tears. Every time you cried, I was collecting every drop. When you wept in frustration, I was there understanding your confusion. When you sobbed in grief, I was there sharing your sorrow. When you cried tears of joy, I was there celebrating with you. Your tears weren't evidence of my absence. They were evidence of my presence. Because only someone who truly cares catches tears. Only someone who genuinely loves counts sorrows. Only someone who is present can comfort pain. Now let me show you where I've actually been during every season you thought I was absent. Because I want you to see that there hasn't been a single moment when you were truly alone. I've been in your breath. Every morning when you woke up, I was the first thing that entered your lungs. Every night when you went to sleep, I was the last thing that sustained your life. When you were so heartbroken you could barely breathe, I was breathing for you. When anxiety tried to steal your breath, I was the air that kept you alive. You never had to wonder if I was there. You just had to notice that you were still breathing. Every breath was evidence of my presence. Every heartbeat was proof of my care. I've been in your unexpected strength. When you thought you couldn't handle one more disappointment, but you did. When you believed you couldn't survive another loss, but you survived. When you were convinced you couldn't take another step, but you kept walking. That wasn't your strength. That was mine flowing through you. I was the supernatural endurance that carried you through seasons that should have broken you. I was the resilience that helped you bounce back from setbacks that should have destroyed you. I was the hope that refused to die even when everything around you was dying. I've been in your tears. Every time you cried, I was collecting every drop. When you wept in frustration, I was there understanding your confusion. When you sobbed in grief, I was there sharing your sorrow. When you cried tears of joy, I was there celebrating with you. Your tears weren't evidence of my absence. They were evidence of my presence. Because only someone who truly cares catches tears. Only someone who genuinely loves counts sorrows. Only someone who is present can comfort pain. I've been in your memories of my faithfulness. When new problems arose, something in your spirit reminded you of how I helped you through old problems. When fresh fears attacked your mind, something within you recalled my previous deliverances. When doubt tried to convince you I didn't care, something in your heart whispered about my past provisions. That wasn't just your memory. That was my presence reminding you of my faithfulness, pointing you back to evidence of my care, building your faith on the foundation of my proven love. I want to help you understand why your spiritual vision became clouded, why you stopped recognizing my presence, why you began feeling abandoned when I never moved away from you. Pain distorted your perception. When you're hurting deeply, everything looks different. Physical pain makes it hard to think clearly. Emotional pain makes it hard to feel accurately. Spiritual pain makes it hard to see truly. The intensity of your suffering created a fog around your spiritual vision, making it difficult to see me even though I was standing right beside you. This is normal and understandable. I don't blame you for not seeing clearly when you were in agony. I don't expect perfect spiritual vision when you're experiencing imperfect circumstances. But I want you to know that your inability to see me didn't mean I wasn't there. Disappointment changed your expectations. When prayers weren't answered the way you expected, when help didn't come in the form you anticipated, When my timing didn't match your timeline, you started expecting less from me. You lowered your expectations of my involvement, reduced your confidence in my care, diminished your belief in my presence. But my presence has never been dependent on meeting your expectations. I'm present whether you expect me or not, whether you see me or not, whether you feel me or not. Disappointment may change your expectations, but it doesn't change my faithfulness. Comparison stole your confidence. You looked at other people's lives, and it seemed like I was more present with them than with you. Their prayers seemed to get answered faster. Their problems seemed to get solved easier. Their lives seemed to flow smoother. And you started wondering if I loved them more, cared for them better, was more involved in their stories. But you can't judge my presence in your life by my activity in someone else's life. You don't know their full story, their complete journey, their ultimate destination. My presence in your life is unique to your needs, your purpose, your calling. I'm not more present with others. I'm present with you in the way you specifically need. Busyness crowded out awareness. Life became so demanding, so overwhelming, so fast-paced that you stopped taking time to notice my presence. You were so focused on solving problems that you forgot to look for my help. You were so busy running toward answers that you missed my whispers. You were so consumed with doing that you forgot about being still, being aware, being open to my presence. My presence doesn't get louder to compete with your busyness. It often gets quieter, inviting you to slow down, to be still, to remember that I am God and you can trust me with your concerns. Others' opinions influenced your perception. When people suggested that your difficulties meant I wasn't with you, when they questioned why bad things were happening if I really cared, when they implied that my presence should prevent all problems, their voices became louder than my whispers. You started seeing your life through their perspective instead of mine. You started measuring my presence by their standards instead of my truth. You started believing their interpretations instead of my promises. Past experiences created false patterns. Because I didn't show up the way you expected in previous situations, you assumed I wouldn't show up in current situations. Because help didn't come when you thought it should before, you stopped expecting it to come when you needed it now. Because prayers seemed unanswered in the past, you started praying with less faith in the present. But my presence in your life isn't limited by past patterns. I'm not restricted by previous experiences. I'm not bound by former methods. I'm always present, always working, always caring, sometimes in ways you recognize, sometimes in ways you don't, but always in ways that are perfect for your situation. Now I want to give you practical wisdom for restoring your spiritual vision, for recognizing my presence, for never feeling abandoned again. These aren't complicated theological concepts. They're simple, daily practices that will help you see me clearly. Look for me in the ordinary, not just the extraordinary. I'm present in your regular Tuesday just as much as in your miraculous moments. I'm active in your routine as much as in your revival. I'm working through normal circumstances as powerfully as through supernatural interventions. Train your eyes to see me in the sunrise that greets you each morning, in the food that nourishes your body, in the bed that gives you rest at night. Look for me in the friend who texts you at just the right moment, in the song that comes on the radio when you need encouragement, in the idea that comes to your mind when you're facing a decision. Listen for my voice in silence, not just in sound. Sometimes I speak through the absence of noise rather than the presence of words. Sometimes my message comes through the peace that settles over your spirit when you stop striving. Sometimes my guidance arrives through the clarity that emerges when you quiet your mind. Set aside time each day for silence, not to hear dramatic revelations, but to become aware of my quiet presence. In the silence, you'll notice that you're not alone, that there's a companion with you who needs no words to communicate love. Feel for my presence in peace, not just in excitement. My presence often manifests as unexplainable peace in the middle of chaos, supernatural calm in the center of storms, divine rest in the midst of turmoil. You don't need to feel ecstatic to know I'm with you. You just need to notice when peace comes that doesn't match your circumstances. When you should be anxious but you're calm. When you should be panicked but you're peaceful. When you should be overwhelmed but you're steady. That's evidence of my presence providing what you need. Recognize my fingerprints on your blessings. Every good thing in your life has my fingerprints on it. The abilities you have, the opportunities you receive, the relationships that support you, the provisions that meet your needs, none of these are random or self-generated. Start thanking me for what you already have instead of only asking for what you want. When you practice gratitude for existing blessings, you'll start recognizing my presence in current provisions. Trust my timing instead of judging my absence. When help doesn't come when you expect it, instead of assuming I'm not coming, trust that I'm coming at the perfect time. When prayers aren't answered immediately, instead of thinking I'm not listening, believe that I'm preparing the perfect answer. My timing is never late, never early, always perfect. What feels like delay is often preparation. What seems like silence is often orchestration behind the scenes. Remember my promises instead of focusing on your feelings. Your emotions are real and valid, but they're not reliable indicators of my presence. I promise never to leave you or forsake you, and that promise isn't conditional on how you feel. When emotions tell you I'm absent, remind them of my promises. When feelings suggest I don't care, point them to my track record. When your heart says you're alone, let your faith say you're accompanied by the Creator of the universe. Let me show you specific evidence of my presence that you've been missing, so you can start recognizing these signs in your daily life going forward. I was present in your survival of what should have destroyed you. Think back to your darkest seasons, your most devastating losses, your most crushing disappointments. By all accounts, those experiences should have broken you permanently. But you're still here. You're still standing. You're still believing, still hoping, still loving. That survival wasn't just your resilience. It was my presence sustaining you through what you couldn't handle alone. I was the invisible strength that carried you when you couldn't carry yourself. I was present in wisdom that exceeded your experience. There have been moments when you knew exactly what to say in a difficult conversation, even though you'd never faced that situation before. Times when you made decisions that turned out perfectly, even though you didn't have enough information to choose wisely. Instances when you avoided problems you couldn't have seen coming. That wisdom didn't come from your limited knowledge. It came from my unlimited understanding flowing through your spirit. I was present in doors that opened when you had no key. Opportunities that came from nowhere. Connections that developed impossibly. Resources that appeared unexpectedly. Favor that made no logical sense. Solutions that emerged from impossible situations. You thought these were lucky breaks, but they were my presence moving on your behalf, opening what needed to be opened, connecting what needed to be connected, providing what needed to be provided. I was present in strength that came when you had none left. Those mornings when you woke up exhausted but found energy to face the day. Those moments when you wanted to quit but discovered motivation to continue. Those seasons when you felt empty but somehow kept pouring into others. That strength came from my presence replenishing what you had spent, refueling what you had exhausted, renewing what you thought was depleted. I was present in peace that transcended your circumstances. Times when you should have been panicked but felt calm. Moments when chaos surrounded you but serenity filled you. Seasons when everything was falling apart but something in your spirit remained unshaken. That peace couldn't be manufactured by positive thinking or created by circumstances. It could only come from my presence providing what your situation couldn't supply. I was present in love that healed what others broke. When people disappointed you, betrayed you, abandoned you, something in your heart kept believing in love. When relationships failed, something in your spirit kept hoping for connection. When trust was broken, something in your soul kept reaching for authentic relationship. That wasn't naive optimism. It was my presence keeping your heart soft, keeping your spirit open, keeping your capacity for love alive despite the damage others inflicted. I was present in hope that refused to die. Even in your darkest moments, even when logic said to give up, even when evidence suggested no reason to continue believing, something in you kept hoping. A small flame of possibility kept burning. A quiet voice kept whispering that things could change. That hope came from my presence in your spirit, reminding you that I'm the God of resurrection, the God of new beginnings, the God who specializes in impossible turnarounds. Now I want to give you tools that will ensure you never feel abandoned again. Practices that will keep you aware of my presence regardless of what you're going through. Start each day by acknowledging my presence before you acknowledge your problems. Before you check your phone, before you review your schedule, before you start worrying about your concerns. Take a moment to remember that I'm with you. Say it out loud. Jesus is with me today. Let that truth set the foundation for everything else you encounter. When you start with my presence, everything else falls into proper perspective. Your problems don't disappear, but they're no longer bigger than your God. End each day by reviewing my faithfulness instead of your failures. Before you go to sleep, instead of replaying everything that went wrong, rehearse everything that went right. Look for evidence of my presence in the day behind you. Thank me for specific ways you saw my care, my provision, my protection. This practice trains your mind to look for me instead of looking for problems, to see blessings instead of burdens, to recognize presence instead of absence. When facing difficulties, ask, where is Jesus in this? Instead of, where did Jesus go? Instead of assuming my absence because of problems, look for my presence within the problems. Ask how I might be using this difficulty for your growth, your preparation, your ultimate good. This shift in questioning changes your entire perspective. Instead of feeling abandoned in trials, you'll start looking for what I'm accomplishing through trials. In moments of confusion, remember my character instead of analyzing my methods. When you can't understand what I'm doing, remember who I am. When my ways don't make sense, trust my heart. When my methods are mysterious, rely on my love. I am good, even when life isn't good. I am faithful, even when circumstances are confusing. I am present, even when my presence isn't obvious. During seasons of silence, talk to me anyway. Just because you can't hear my voice doesn't mean I can't hear yours. Just because I'm not speaking audibly doesn't mean I'm not listening intently. Keep praying. Keep sharing your heart. Keep expressing your thoughts and feelings. My silence doesn't indicate my absence, it often indicates my deep listening, my careful consideration, my perfect timing for response. Surround yourself with reminders of my promises. Put verses about my presence where you'll see them regularly. Play music that reminds you of my faithfulness. Keep a journal of ways you've seen my care. Read stories of how I've been present with others in their difficulties. These reminders serve as anchors for your faith when emotions try to convince you I'm absent. Practice gratitude for present blessings instead of focusing on missing ones. Thank me for what you have instead of complaining about what you lack. Celebrate current provisions instead of worrying about future needs. Acknowledge existing evidence of my care instead of demanding new proof of my presence. Gratitude opens your eyes to see me where I already am instead of demanding that I show up where you think I should be. My beloved child, as we end our time together today, I want to leave you with a truth that will anchor your heart for the rest of your life. You have never been alone, and you never will be alone. Every breath you take is evidence of my presence. Every heartbeat is proof of my care. Every new day is a gift of my faithfulness. Every strength you find is supplied by my power. Every hope you feel is birthed by my promises. I was with you in your first cry as a baby, and I'll be with you in your last breath as an adult. I was present in your greatest victories, and I was present in your deepest valleys. I am with you in this moment as you listen to these words, and I'll be with you in every moment that follows. The times you felt abandoned were times when pain clouded your vision, not times when I moved away from you. The seasons you felt forgotten were seasons when my work was invisible, not seasons when my work was inactive. The moments you felt alone were moments when you were looking in the wrong places, not moments when I was absent from your life. I never left you. I will never leave you. I cannot leave you, because leaving you would require me to stop being who I am, and I am unchanging, eternal, faithful love. When future trials come, and they will come, remember this conversation. When new difficulties arise, and they will arise, recall these truths. When pain tries to convince you I'm absent, and it will try, come back to these promises. You are never alone. You are always loved. You are constantly accompanied by the Creator of the universe who calls you his beloved child. I never left you, and I never will. Rest in that truth. Live in that reality. Let that promise be the foundation of your faith and the anchor of your hope. I love you beyond your ability to understand, and I'm with you beyond your ability to feel, always and forever. Amen.